Hey, what up? It is I, Alistair of Gnome Gnite Minis. It's been months, but here I am. I'm here to finally discuss and fix my shot slightly, give myself less headroom. Here to discuss sculpting for castability. I've had like 6 goes at this, trying to do it just off the cuff, but finally it has formed in my head. I have a cohesive idea of what I want to say. So, when sculpting for castability, I'm not thinking about injection molding, I'm not thinking about 3D printing, although some ideas are transferable there. I'm not thinking about 2-part molds, I'm not thinking about spin casting metal, I'm thinking about doing one-piece cut molds. Or even just straight one-piece molds. Everything else there, outside of my realm of influence, there are people who are definitely better qualified to tell you about that. There are people who are definitely better qualified to tell you about this than I am, but hey, I'm just bullshitting here, and I enjoy talking about it, and I enjoy thinking about it, so hopefully I can help you think about it. Anyway, I've sort of divided this up into building up your complexity of your model, and which will result in a building complexity of what you have to do to the mold to get it out. And the first thing we're going to start with is the idea of a hemisphere. The easiest thing to cast, in my opinion, would be a perfectly smooth hemisphere that's slightly more cylindrical than it is spherical just down the bottom, just so you can sand that off to get it to be a perfectly smooth hemisphere. And for your first models, and your first pours, any model that you want to just blop straight out, thinking about that hemisphere and having like all of your details coming out hemispherically from a central point while it's quite round may be helpful. I will now insert some footage of me talking about one of my models, which I sculpted with this idea in mind. Alright, so here are my mini molds. Here are a couple of casts I'm going to talk about. So the first one we're going to talk about is sculpting with the idea of a hemisphere. So we're going to pop this guy out, and you're going to see what I mean. So he has no cuts around the side of the mold, and if I just crack the surface tension and give him a push, boop, out he pops. And behold, it is a terrible little snail man. Oh, and I didn't catch bubbles on the chin. Sometimes I catch bubbles on his chin, but I appear to have avoided that this time. I probably could have smoothed that out slightly more with some liquid green stuff. So if you look at the boy, you can see that all of his detail is sort of radiating out from the center to the outside. Because it's like that, and because the widest point is either nearly on the bottom or at the bottom, seeing as he's very wide on the bottom, I don't have to cut that mold. He can just pop out. So you can do sort of low-to-the-ground beasties like snails and slugs. Frogs. I've got a frog somewhere that I cast this way. Anything that sort of is low to the ground, pretty flat, that you can do sort of hemispherical and have all of its detail radiating out and pointing up and out from the center. If you sculpt that sort of way, you can have a nice one-piece mold that just pops out with no need to cut. So that's the hemisphere. And the next thing that we want to think about is a pillar. A pillar would be the second easiest thing. My original 50-minute magnum opus of how to sculpt, mold, and cast when you can't sculpt, mold, and cast, those 2 beekeepers, they were sort of sculpted as a pillar. I've got some stuff from Ramshackle Games, which is better than anything I'll ever make, that's sculpted as a pillar, which I will show as well. And then I've got one of my own that is also sculpted as a pillar. And what I mean by this is everything's attached to a central point. Like it's a humanoid figure. Everything is all still attached. Think about like those Lewis chessmen. Nothing pokes out from beyond the binds of the sculpt. It's all still attached. Everything is self-venting and self-supporting because it's all very close to the chest, all very just attached. So let's insert demolding and talking footage here. All right, next step up is the pillar. So here is our guy sculpted as a pillar. He's got some flash resin on the outside. And I'm not going to say clever cutting. I stole this from Curtis, for Ramshackle Games. I steal all my ideas from Curtis of Ramshackle Games or Robert Talone. His mold is only got one cut and then the rest of him should hopefully pop out of here. Hello. Bloop. There we go. And it is a traveling merchant man with a pot and a big cloak and an animal skull as a head. As you can see, all of his details, all of his limbs, everything is all still very attached to the central pillar of his body. And, I think I did quite a good job of his hand, but to avoid, talking up my own sculpts, we're going to grab something excellent, which I did purchase from Curtis of Ramshackle Games. We're going to talk about his boglanders. Now, these are polyester resin. These are the armored boglanders. But here you are. You see this guy. This guy is sort of very emblematic of it. You see how all of this comes from a central pillar. Everything's all still attached. There's no gaps. There's nowhere for, there's no need to cut through. I think with these, he actually only has one cut, and I think it's right in the middle of the back, because that was where I saw some flash earlier. Before I cleaned it up. But you can see, everything's all attached. All the details are still attached. And I'm going to insert, a little bit of Lewis Chessman footage. Oh, even, here, where he might catch a bubble on the corner of that shield, he's put just, an extra little bit of gunk or whatever in there. And this sort of vents itself all the way down. The blade isn't actually a separate piece. It's all attached. Everything is all attached. And therefore will cast. There's nowhere for anywhere to catch bubbles. The next step up from our pillar when thinking about sculpting a sort of castable silhouette is the I'm a Little Teapot. And there are tons of Warhammer miniatures, Oldhammer stuff, HeroQuest stuff. All of that's very I'm a Little Teapot. Are you thinking about Slambo? Having a sort of stance where hand on hip and then another hand holding up a weapon or a staff or whatever, all of that allows that weapon to be vented and all the other parts venting themselves down in the direction. So we will insert footage here of me demolding one of my most recent casts and moving on from there. All right. Moving on to I'm a Little Teapot. Here he is. Teapot Man. I've caught a bubble on his elbow. How very disappointing. It shouldn't have happened. Well, it's alright. Maybe I just poured it too quickly and didn't rock and roll and remove them, but it's alright. And there's the vent as well. See if we can bring the vent with us so you can see where I actually vent. No, detached. Whatever. So here he is in his I'm a Little Teapot pose. Actually managed to avoid a lot of the flash that I had previously, which is good. But what we have, in order to allow this to vent, I actually used a small piece of wire and glued it between the top of the hat and here. And so if I pour in here, air can escape out this hole and then go up, and then this will fill. This is all a little bit floppy. I'm not sure if it's completely cured, or maybe I put too much pigment in, which is something, because it's quite dark compared. Well, if I leave it for the night, it'll clean up. Anyway, but you see, he's literally hand on hip, he's a Little Teapot. And then here, it's supposed to, it's caught a big bubble in there. How very disappointing. Normally, we'll just grab the one that actually worked out. Here he is. Normally, you can see here that I smoothed out that transition a little bit where it would be harsh between the elbow. And so it shouldn't catch a bubble, but it appears to have caught one here. So, I'm not perfect. I'll just fill that up with grey stuff and no one will know the difference. Or maybe I'll paint that one up as my painted model. Anyway, you can see, even though he's got holes in his pose, you can see that I had to cut through those in the mold. All of his limbs and whatever, even though this one's angled down and potentially would catch a bubble if it was separate, has been vented by the weapon. And so the weapon is acting as a big vent for all the air for that limb, and then this limb is self-venting, rejoining the main pose. And yeah, that's about it. Maybe we'd catch bubbles in the hat if I hadn't inserted that little vent. Maybe we'd catch bubbles going up the staff if I hadn't inserted that little vent. But because I've vented between those two, we don't catch any bubbles there. That's very disappointing. It's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to look like this. oh well, that's life. And finally, I insert into your mind the worm. And the worm is, if you're willing to cut in multiple directions, if you're willing to insert vents everywhere, if you're willing to sprue everything, it is possible, nearly, to cast any shape. Should you do this, though, is the question. It's a question I asked myself halfway through cutting the mold that I'll insert the footage here. But you can feasibly, potentially, if you're willing to spend an hour cutting the mold, get any pose out with things, not very planar, all multi-directional. Is it worth it, though? Sometimes I don't think it is. And here's some footage of me demolding that and talking about it. All right, and our final one is the worm. Don't let the worm get in your head. Alice, I was way too ambitious with this one. And you'll see as I try and lever him out of here. All right, so I've got to crack literally every direction. And you can see we've got quite a long vent running up there, don't we? And then I got to slowly peel this out. And then from this direction too. And which one of these is the front and which one's the back? Oh my god. I think this way is next. I genuinely don't remember which direction is which. And I've got to be careful because there's still a little bit of bend in this. So if I'm too hard on it, the whole thing will bend. That's coming out this way. Oh, that's coming out all the way this way. Come on. All right. This is the front. And you can see it's coming out here. Oh my god. What a mess. Oh, yeah, it's cracking that. That's fine. Good. That's all out mostly. Cool. And then from the back, please. I've got to get one of these out first, and I can't remember which one it is. Whichever one actually comes. Probably this one. Ooh, maybe this one. Oh, yes, that one. All right, that one, and this one. Oh, my God. And then, yeah, this actually goes up, which is annoying. I need to sort of poke it and prod it to get it out. You can see there's so much work to demold this guy. Oh, dear. But there's his head, which is quite a nice head. Can you just separate out, please? Thank you. That one. This mold is 100% going to tear at some point too. I really did a bad job of cutting it. I really should have come at it from different angles than I did. I should have done a lot of things differently. But that's life. And like I've said, I am not the king of this. There's guys who are a lot better at this than I am. And who you should listen to more than you should listen to me. Oh my god, what's going on here? Come on. I think that one goes out first. Yes, and then this one. Which is stuck on, what's that stuck on? Oh, it's stuck on the front of the foot. All right, there we go. Came out. Oh, thank god. And you can see, all right, so you see long vent here for the tip of the spear, which allows the stuff to go all the way in. Not too much flash this time, actually, which is very nice. I should just be able to separate these two. There we go. Still a little bit flexy, which is a bit concerning, because it has been a little while since I poured him. But hopefully after I leave him overnight, he'll cure fully and harden up. Nice looking hat. Get in there and scrape out all this flash. But yeah, okay, so the pose is still sort of the I'm a little teapot school. But you see, rather than being attached all the way down and outside the body, I've actually put the spear across the front, which is where 99% of my problems with this mold come from. because the spear is across the front of his body, and so I need to somehow separate out this area of silicone. So what I should have done is, when first cutting, come in from the front and cut up here, and then done a second cut from this direction and taken out pretty much all of that from the front. And that way I wouldn't have to separate it from the back and have that whole bit where I'm trying to peel out the... Is his foot? Yeah, his foot's there. I was just concerned that his foot had bubbled somehow. There we go. Yeah, multi-directional, whatever. Like, you can still, I still teapotted a little bit here, and I filled in this this hole rather than having to have an extra cut there. The only real hole from the front to the backs, well, there's some here in the spear, which was very silly of me. I don't know why I bothered doing that, but, you know, I thought I was being clever. Thought it would look cool, and now my cat's complaining to me and wants his treat for bed. So don't be like Alistair. Don't go nuts with your posing and then decide that you're going to fix it up with the venting and spruing afterwards, because oh god, the cutting this was a mind-bogglingly horrible experience as well. But he looks cool. He's a cool mushroom/crab-headed guard from sort of Morrowind inspired. Yeah. Cool. So you look at what I have to do to this mold in order to get him out of there. Look at that. There's 5 separate cuts, and then this is 100% going to give way and tear at some point between now and the end of time. It's not smart. And then it's all this flash has got to get cleaned up before I cast it the next time. Otherwise, it'll muck with the cast and like open up, and the flash will be too wide. It's just a mess. You don't be like me. Don't do this to yourself. Don't listen to the worm. Anyway, all right, that's that. All right, so that's thinking silhouette-wise about sculpting, molding, and casting. Some further thoughts. And I did sort of mention this earlier when talking about 3D printing. If you have your model like standing vertically as it would be, if there's anywhere that is sort of greater than 9 degrees and an overhang, that may catch bubbles, and you'll either have to rock them out as you pour, or while sculpting, or after you've sculpted and then go back through, what you can do is you can use liquid green stuff or some other putty to smooth out that transition. So rather than a harsh 90 degrees, you sort of build up this little bit of area here. I'm going to show a couple of my masters now that I've done a little bit of that on, in order just to smooth out some transitions in order to avoid catching bubbles. This is something you can do. Final thing we're talking about is just smoothing out, unharshing those angles. You can see here underneath the bedroll, there's some liquid green stuff that I've put in sort of here and around to smooth out that transition between bedroll and shoulder to make sure it's not a harsh 90 degrees. And then here, in this gentleman, underneath his underarm here to smoothen that out. And then between here and the elbow, which normally would diffuse a bubble, but apparently didn't do it this time. Yeah, still pretty good. I should have squeezed the mold and just given it a little more wiggle waggle, because it's obviously formed right there, and then couldn't get it get underneath and escape out the spear shaft. How disappointing. Oh well, that's life. What can you do? I can have a sook about it, I suppose. Anyway, there you go. That's very general ideas about what to think about when you're sculpting so that it'll end up being castable. Think about either making it a hemisphere, a pillar, and then if you want to go like more advanced than that, go for the classic I'm a little teapot sculpt. And then if you don't go for the classic I'm a little teapot sculpt, you end up with all sorts of bullshit going on. So try not to be like me. Try not to bullshit yourself into a hole. You think like, well, what's the difference between these two? It's just literally the angle of this. This is, you see how there's like a clean line across here. Whereas this one, it's broken up that line. And that's, you know, an easy 2 cuts from the front and back versus 5. Ridiculous. All right. Thanks very much for tuning in. Tune in for more Gnome Good Night. send me a message if you're not from the US and you want to buy models. And if you are from the US and you do want to buy models, you're kind of shit out of luck at the moment because Ozpost are suspending most services. So it sucks to be you, I suppose. This is the result. Anyway, like, subscribe, all that bullshit, and I believe I've got an outro in person. Generally avoiding having thin elements poke out above the rest of the cast. The issue is you're going to run into there is voids, air getting trapped there due to the surface tension of the resin. You can solve this by shooting a vent down like I did with the spear on that watchman with the mushroom hat that I did. What are some other things to think about? Generally, like, as long as you're sort of obeying those poses or you're just willing to go nuts venting and spruing, you can get anything out. But going for like those old hammer poses can really help get like a castable figure. And then failing all of that, what you do is you just put a big cape on the back of your figure. No matter what pose it is, just put a big cloak around it, and the cloak will act as a vent and a support for everything. So there's your final option. Add a cape. I don't have anything that has like a giant cape on it, as far as I know, that I sort of added after the fact to clean everything up. But maybe I'll do that one day. Hopefully this was useful. Hopefully this is the last time I have to talk about this, and I shall see you all not very long from now, because I actually have footage of me putting together a Necropolis 28 board that I've just been sitting on for months. Bye. Like, subscribe, all that YouTube bullshit.